Chapter 2. The conspiracy grows. The morning sun rose over the encampment, casting long shadows across the thousands of tents spread throughout the wilderness. A tense energy hung in the air. For weeks now, Korah's rebellion had grown from whispers into a movement. The leaders of the tribes of Israel were divided, and the people murmured incessantly about the authority of Moses and Aaron. For some, the boldness of Korah and his followers inspired hope. For others, it bred unease. Korah sat within his tent, flanked by Dathan and Abiram, the most outspoken of his allies. The Reubenites were known for their ambition, and their fiery rhetoric had attracted many to Korah's cause. Around them, the 250 men of renown, respected leaders of the tribes, gathered. The air in the tent was thick with the aroma of incense burning in ceremonial bowls, a mark of their claim to equal holiness with Aaron and his priestly line. Korah stood, his commanding presence immediately silencing the room. His voice, deep and deliberate, carried an edge of conviction as he addressed the assembly. "My brothers," he began, pacing slowly, "have we not all suffered under the yoke of this wilderness journey? Have we not toiled and sacrificed day after day, while Moses and Aaron sit upon their thrones of authority, claiming to speak for the Lord?" A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Korah raised a hand, signaling silence. "Did not the Lord bring us out of Egypt as a nation of priests, a holy people set apart? Why then should Moses and Aaron alone hold the power to speak for God? Are we not all holy? Are we not all chosen by the Almighty?" The men exchanged glances, nodding in agreement. Dathan rose to his feet, his face a mask of determination. "You speak truth, Korah," he said, his voice loud and impassioned. "Moses led us out of Egypt with promises of a land flowing with milk and honey. But where is this land? Where is the inheritance he claimed the Lord would give us? We have seen nothing but hardship and wandering." Abiram joined him, his voice filled with scorn. "And now Moses and Aaron would have us bow to their every command, as if they alone are the voice of God. I say no more. Let us show the people that the Lord is with all of us, not just them." Korah smiled, his confidence growing with each word of support. He gestured to the men gathered around him. "Tomorrow, we will confront Moses before the entire assembly. We will demand that he answer for his arrogance and show the people that we too are called to serve the Lord. Prepare your censers, for the Lord himself will decide who is holy." The room erupted in agreement, the leaders voicing their support with raised fists and fervent words. Outside, the sounds of their assembly echoed through the camp, drawing the attention of the people. The rebellion was no longer a secret. It was a full-fledged movement. The people divide. As the day wore on, news of Korah's confrontation spread like wildfire through the camp. Families gathered in small groups, whispering in hushed tones about what was to come. Opinions were divided. Some admired Korah's courage and believed his words carried truth. Others feared that defying Moses and Aaron would bring disaster upon the camp. An elderly woman, her hands worn from years of labor, shook her head as she spoke to her family around the fire. "Korah is a fool," she said, her voice trembling. "Does he not remember how the Lord parted the Red Sea, how he delivered us from Pharaoh's hand through Moses? To challenge Moses is to challenge the Lord himself." Nearby, a young man with fiery eyes argued back. "But what has Moses done for us since then? We have wandered aimlessly, living on manna and promises. Maybe Korah is right. Maybe we need new leaders." The division spread through the camp, creating an undercurrent of tension that was impossible to ignore. children watched their parents argue, their young minds struggling to understand the weight of the conflict. Moses prepares for the challenge. Inside his tent, Moses knelt in prayer. His face, weathered by years of hardship, was etched with a mixture of sorrow and resolve. He had spent his life leading these people, bearing their burdens and their complaints, interceding for them before the Lord time and time again. And now, many of them had turned against him. Aaron stood nearby, his expression tense. "What will you do, brother?" he asked. "Korah has stirred the hearts of the people. They believe his lies." Moses looked up, his eyes filled with a quiet determination. "It is not my authority they reject, Aaron. It is the Lord's. Tomorrow, the Lord will make his will known, and all will see who has been chosen to lead his people." Aaron nodded, but the worry did not leave his face. "And if the people still refuse to listen?" Moses stood, placing a hand on Aaron's shoulder. "Then they will face the consequences of their rebellion. Trust in the Lord, for his justice is perfect." The camp at dusk. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the camp in a deep orange glow, the atmosphere grew heavier. Korah's followers moved through the camp, speaking to anyone who would listen. They painted Moses as a tyrant, a man who had led them into the wilderness to die while elevating himself above the people. Their words resonated with many who were weary and disillusioned. At the same time, Moses and Aaron moved among the people, speaking calmly but firmly about the seriousness of Korah's rebellion. They reminded the Israelites of the Lord's miracles and his faithfulness, urging them to stand firm in their trust. That night, the camp was restless. Fires burned low as families huddled in their tents, their thoughts consumed by the events to come. The air seemed charged with anticipation, as though the earth itself was holding its breath. Of the conflict. A dream of warning. Korah sat in his tent, his senses laid out before him, gleaming in the firelight. He was confident, his mind consumed with visions of victory. But as sleep overtook him, his dreams turned dark. In his dream, he stood before a great chasm, its depths shrouded in darkness. From the chasm rose a voice, deep and foreboding. "Korah," the voice said, echoing like thunder, "do you challenge the Lord? Do you think yourself above his chosen servants?" Korah tried to speak, but the ground beneath him began to shake violently. He stumbled, falling to his knees as the earth opened wide before him. From the depths of the chasm came fire and smoke, consuming everything in its path. He screamed as the flames reached for him, engulfing him in a searing heat. He woke with a start, his body drenched in sweat. The dream lingered in his mind, but he dismissed it as the product of his anxiety. "Tomorrow," he whispered to himself, "the Lord will vindicate me." Morning breaks as dawn broke, the camp stirred to life. The assembly gathered near the tabernacle, where Korah and his followers stood ready with their censers. The 250 men of renown formed an imposing line, their presence a stark reminder of Korah's growing influence. Moses and Aaron stood opposite them, their faces calm but resolute. Between them lay the space where the Lord's judgment would soon be revealed. The crowd murmured with anticipation, their eyes darting between the two sides. Some whispered prayers, their hearts heavy with fear. Others watched with eager curiosity, eager to see what would happen. Moses stepped forward, raising his staff. His voice rang out, clear and steady. "Let it be known today, whom the Lord has chosen to lead his people. If these men are in the right, let nothing happen to them. But if the Lord has sent me, then let the earth open and swallow them alive." A hush fell over the assembly. The tension was palpable, every eye fixed on the scene before them. Korah stepped forward, his senses held high, his voice defiant. "We are all holy," he declared. "The Lord is among us all, not just you, Moses." The stage was set, and the people waited, holding their breath as they prepared to witness a moment that would change the course of their history.